Okay, I'm getting the head on. We are ready to go. Everyone's back. Good session this morning. So we're at that place where we know who our ideal buyer is, right? We know the type of company. We know what we have to do in order to, relate to them somewhat, but we're really going to dive into it. So this is where we're going to completely understand what that ideal client looks like. And for today's exercise, we're going to use the stages of change as our major steps to track our clients or our ideal buyers and clients. And then we'll do our mapping of focus, communication, roles, and responsibilities based off those steps. So let's jump right in. Okay, so that first stage is no idea. And no idea, it's a real, we really have to understand this. There are a lot of people that we work with that just jump right past the stage. And there is some relevance to it, especially how you approach them, what's the first interactions. But there is the state of no idea where your ideal buyer, your ideal client, your ideal partner for a long time, they don't know anything. They don't know about what you do. They don't know what you solve. They probably don't even know the problem out there that you solve, or there's a possibility that they don't. Okay, so no idea. We just have to really understand that there is that, when it comes to a state of change, they have to be aware of the idea and pre-contemplation to contemplation. So now we move into reflection. So something has happened here that has moved your buyer, being an individual or a company or a group of people within a company, to reflect. Something has triggered them to look at, I wonder if we have a problem. I wonder if we have the similar, an issue here. And so they look internally and they're deciding, this is pre-change, way pre-change, but they're deciding, is it worth us investing any more time? And that brings us to a third stage, which is preparation. So that ideal buyer, that ideal avatar, there's something that has happened from reflection now into preparation, where they have said, yes, we do identify that there's something here internally. And now let's figure out how we would solve it if we're to solve it. And that's preparation. Okay. And we are going to map up our departments, our teams, communication, everything to all these stages, but just understand that those stages happen before you get to change. Right? So your avatar, they don't know about it. Then they realize that there may be something. They look internally, usually at themselves. And then they go outward and they start preparing. How do we do this? And as we move through the flow later on, we'll get to it. But this is like where sales starts to do demonstrations and showing them lots of competitors out there sometimes, because the avatar, the buyer, is doing their preparation for change. Okay. But change means that your ideal client has committed, right? Not committed to the process, but committed to moving forward, with you in this particular case. If changes happen, change can happen, it might not be with you, but in this case, it happened with your organization, all of your organizations, okay? But change is a really, it's a measurable step of when you are change. You're going through change, and we could break down change, and there's other milestones here, which we will get to later. But right now, just know you prepare and then you change, and you actually go for it and start to actually make changes. So then after the organization has changed, they've seen the problem, they've identified it, they've prepared for it, they found their best solution, then they've gone through and they've done the change and put the process in place. There is this final stage that a lot of companies we see neglect, or maybe sometimes just don't even really put a lot of attention or focus to it, but it's this maintenance stage. Now, maintenance or maintain is a very critical step for organizations to manage, right? What did success look like for this ideal client after change? Like when change happens, what did success look like? And then how do they maintain that moving forward? And what process, people, technology, right, do they have to put in place in order to maintain it? So those are the stages of change. And now let's dive into what it means and how we're going to start mapping against it. Okay. So the first one's no idea, right? And we're going to talk about the focus. Where is this ideal avatar's focus? Where are they looking at any point in time? And when they're no idea, we don't have any idea where they're looking, right? They could be looking at, new cars, they could be looking at the sunset, but we have no idea. Well, maybe our marketing team have done some work to understand where they are in pre-contemplation, but I'm saying right now, we don't really know. Let's just start with that, where their focus is. The focus, when you move down into reflection, changes. And the focus of the avatar is internal. Now, just stay with me for a second here. They move from having nothing to something's triggered, and immediately they look at themselves. So now let's do an analogy. I drive home and I pull into my house at nighttime and I just walk straight in. I have no idea, and I'm just going to back that up. I have no idea that I may have a leak in my roof. But then let's say I pull in one night and hopefully, house isn't, but I look over and my next door neighbor, somebody's up on the roof and they're re-shingling the roof. Well, that could be a catalyst that rockets me immediately into reflection. At what point in time I'm going to look internally. So think about your avatar now. And your avatar, how they focus internally at what they're doing. A lot of that happens in some organizations, depending on how they enter the sales process, if they help shape the reflection versus post. But I'm jumping ahead too far, but then they get into preparation. And preparation usually takes that focus and it takes it from internally and starts looking outward, right? What organizations out there are similar to us, and what have they done in order to solve the same problem? That's a common thought, right? But this is when they go through the preparation phase of understanding. We understand we have a problem now. What do we do to solve it? And that's that preparation, right? They haven't changed yet. They haven't solved it. Change is when they've solved the problem or when they're in the process of solving the problem, but they've actually committed to it. Preparation is still evaluation, okay? We're moving over to change though. So now where's that focus changed? Well, it's one of two places. One, if it's very quick, the transition from preparing to having the solution in place, then the focus is going to look internally. What's our performance? What's our KPIs? How are we going? But in places that have a lot of implementation, the focus is going to remain on this group of people on this phone, the organizations that are implementing the change. Until the implementation is done and success criteria is met, they're still in this constant state of change. So the length of change can last, which we'll get into, but the focus will be on the vendor or the person that's helping them get to the change. There will be some internal focus too, but primarily it's going to be focused on who's providing the path to the success criteria, okay? Then we move to maintain, right? So where's the focus? Hopefully their focus is internally. This is where we're going to go. If the system has been put in place properly for this state of change, hopefully the process, technology, people that were put in place for maintenance allows them just to focus internally again on monitoring the success criteria. Okay, that's not always the case. And when we break out in our workout groups later, we're going to come up with a lot of scenarios where that's not the case and how to resolve it. But that's something for us to be really aware of. So we'll take a quick break and then we're going to move into avatar communication and how we have to communicate for each of those stages.